What if I told you that this woman was found dead with 20 stab wounds in her own kitchen and the police says it's a suicide? Like, does that even make any sense to you? Not one, not two, but 20 stab wounds, and they said she did it all by herself. Well, stay with me, guys, because this story will not only shock you, but also confuse you and maybe even make you angry. Now, this woman, her name is Ellen Greenberg. So on the 26th of January 2011 in Philadelphia, snow was pouring down, schools were closed. Ellen Greenberg, who was a 27-year-old first grade school teacher, left school, went home just an ordinary day. So later that evening, her fiance, whose name is Sam Goldberg, decided to go to the gym in the building, but when he got back, something is wrong. He tried to get into the apartment, but the door was locked from the inside. So he knocked and banged on the door. There was no response. He even texted her and called her, still nothing. So he had to break down the door, but what he saw inside would never leave his memory. He met Ellen lying on the kitchen floor. There was a kitchen knife sticking out of her chest. There was blood everywhere. Now imagine walking in on that, the person you've decided to spend the rest of your life with, gone just like that. But this wasn't just one wound. When investigators looked closer, they found 20 stab wounds, 8 in her chest, 10 in the back of her neck, and 2 in her stomach. Some of the wounds were even so deep that it even got to her spinal cord. Now I want you to pause and ask yourself this question: how could someone stab herself 20 times, including the back of her neck? It just doesn't make any sense. At first, the medical examiner ruled it as homicide because that was the only thing that makes sense. Like, how could this be a suicide? But after a few days, something strange happened. The ruling just suddenly changed and her death was ruled from homicide to suicide. 20 stab wounds in her chest, in the back of her neck, and you said it's a suicide. That decision has been questioned ever since then. Now, what made Ellen's death so suspicious is that some of her wounds had no blood, and that can only mean that they have been made only after her heart stopped beating. She had more than 10 bruises on her body in different stages of healing. The knife found on her only had her DNA, and the apartment door was locked from the inside. So police looked at all of this and said there was no forced entry, there was no other DNA, so this had to be a suicide. But does that explanation really make any sense? But Ellen's parents never believed this. To them, Ellen was happy. She was planning a wedding. She was texting her friend. She even made fruit salad just hours earlier. So that does not sound like someone that would stab herself 20 times. Yes, she was anxious. She was on medication. But stabbing herself 20 times just sounds impossible. So Ellen's family started their own investigation. They had forensic experts, and one of the experts said that some of the stab wounds looked like it happened after her death, and another expert said that some of the bruises on her looked like signs of a long-term abuse, and then together they agreed that it was not a suicide but a murder. So naturally, people started pointing finger at Sam, who was the fiancé. He was the one that found her like that and was the last one to see her. And some even say that his story about breaking down the door doesn't add up, because if he has forcefully opened the door just like he said, then why does the lock on the door look almost untouched? But here's one thing: Sam was never charged. The police never named him as a suspect, and there was no evidence tying him to the crime. So if it wasn't Sam, then who did it? And if it was a suicide, how could she stab herself 20 times? And this is where this case even gets darker, because not quite long after her death, the apartment was cleaned, her belongings were removed, and some people had to believe that some very important evidence were lost forever, because why would anyone want to clean a crime scene just like that? So to Ellen's family, they believe the official just wanted to close the case first. To them, they believe that it wasn't just a mistake, it was a cover-up. Over a decade now, Ellen's family fought for answers. They filed the lawsuit, they pushed the city, they even went to media saying that they will never stop until their daughter gets justice. And after years of being ignored, something finally changed. In 2025, the city finally agreed to reopen the case. The former medical examiner even admitted that maybe they got something wrong. He said the evidence does not fully support suicide anymore.